Hi everyone, I'm Leanne.
And I'm Marvelous Michael.
And this is Unschooled History.
Let me start off by saying we were filming this on a very auspicious day, Leanne.
What do you mean?
Well, we're talking about Narmer, one of the oldest Egyptians, and a true pharaonic mummy, and we're filming this on Mummy's Day.
Very funny.
This may not air on Mummy's Day, but we're filming it on Mummy's Day.
Hi. Well, we are talking about Narmer, the first known pharaoh. And not much is known about him, to be honest. We know that he was a king of Upper Egypt, and that he united Upper and Lower Egypt. We don't even know if Narmer was his real name. Another name we have for him is Menes, though it has become generally agreed upon that Narmer is his name and Menes was a title, meaning he who perseveres.
You want to hear something interesting, honey?
What?
First off, Narmer almost literally translates as the Catfish King.
Seriously?
Yeah, so he could have been King Catfish. But it's also rumored, now it's not been proven one way or the other, but he may have been the king known as Scorpion II. So he may have been King Scorpion or the Scorpion King. Not the one played by The Rock, although Dwayne Johnson did a fantastic job in that role. But he may have been actually the one they called the Scorpion King.
Well, I actually looked it up, hon. The Scorpion King in the movies is based off of the Scorpion King known as Scorpion 2.
Yes, but actually, the Scorpion King in the movies turned into a giant scorpion, and he didn't do that.
No, he didn't. So this is the Narmer palette, which is the most important piece of archaeological evidence that we have from Narmer's time. And palettes like this were used in ancient Egypt to grind coal into eyeshadow. You might remember us mentioning coal in its other form, antimony, in our weird medicine video.
Yes.
Its importance is increased by the fact that it has the earliest hieroglyphic inscriptions ever found, dating back to 3800 BC.
Okay, now a couple of the interesting things to point out about the palette itself. On the back, or where the depression is, it says the circular depression is surmounted by feline heads. Those were two mythological beasts at the time to show his importance.
That circular depression is also where the grinding of coal would have been done if this particular palette had been used in everyday use instead of ceremonially.
Mm-hmm.
There are several important symbols on the palette. You can see in the upper left-hand corner is Hathor, the Divine Mother, represented by the bull's head. And you can actually see that in each corner at the top on both sides of the palette. On one side, Narmer is wearing the crown of Upper Egypt, and on the other one, he's wearing the crown of Lower Egypt. We see Horus depicted as a falcon, as the protector of pharaohs, slaying enemies under Narmer's feet. There's some papyrus plant representing Lower Egypt. On the other side, where he's wearing the crown of Lower Egypt, you see beheaded enemies and the circular depression. So this was very, very symbolic as a piece, and can still be seen in the Egyptian Museum today.
Yes. It's traditional of war, of a victory, peace, after a war or a conquest. This sort of device would have been made.
Now let's talk about Narmer's queen, Nefertiti. She was a princess of Lower Egypt, and Narmer used this marriage to help cement his rule over Lower Egypt and to help with the uniting of Egypt. Interestingly enough, there is some evidence that she may have actually been married to one of Narmer's successors, acted as a co-regent for their son, or even been the earliest known pharaoh in her own right. There's as much confusion about Nefertiti as about Narmer himself. As the queen, she would have held the title of foremost among women and consort of the two ladies. The two ladies being the goddesses Wadjet and Nekbet. These goddesses, one represented Upper Egypt, the other represented Lower Egypt.
One was represented as a cobra, the other as a vulture.
Wadjet was the cobra, right?
I believe so.
And Nekbet was the vulture?
I believe so. They're usually depicted. If you ever see Tut's mask or in a pharaoh mask, they're usually depicted on center front, right above the pharaoh's head. Pharaoh's forehead, that is.
And the cool thing is that just about every pharaoh had a name that would end with of the two ladies. So when we say that Nefertiti had the title consort of the two ladies, she was not a consort to these two goddesses. She was Nefertiti, consort of the two ladies. She was protected by the two ladies, which was a kindly name, kind of like when we refer to Puck as Robin Goodfellow.
Yeah.
So obviously, the uniting of Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt was not as simple as Narmer marrying Nefertiti. There was a battle, but it was an easy win for Narmer, as Upper Egypt was larger and far more prosperous than Lower Egypt. I don't know about anybody else, but I used to get really, really confused because I thought Upper Egypt was in the north and Lower Egypt was in the south.
That's what a lot of people tend to think. But it's actually based on the altitude of the River Nile.
Yes, it's Upper Egypt in the south because the river is flowing down into Lower Egypt and the River Nile flows north. On the right, you can also see how the crowns of Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt were combined into one crown by Narmer. And honestly, it's a lot cooler looking combined than it was as either separate crown. At least I think so.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the biggest legacy that we have from Narmer is a united Egypt. But we do have some pop culture stuff for him.
We do.
We have a cool screenplay that was written about him. We have books, including this one in Spanish. And this cartoon image of him is from the game Age of Empires Online.
Yes.
Unfortunately, they retired the game, but they did eventually bring it back. So I think you can still play with Narmer on that game. In the original, he was a quest giver, and you could get him as a counselor. I don't know if he's in the revived version or not.
That's so cool.
It is still cool.
And let's not forget, he may be revealed as the Scorpion King.
Yes. So once again, we might have that pop culture connection with the movies because he might have been also Scorpion too. So we don't know.
Yeah.
Whether he was or wasn't, we can at least thank him for a unified Egypt and for some really intriguing mysteries as far as archaeologically speaking. And he's just this really interesting thing because everybody knows Cleopatra was the last pharaoh. But how many people know Narmer?
Yeah, and he was the first pharaoh of a combined Upper and Lower Egypt.
Yes. So we hope you enjoyed this presentation on Narmer. As always, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and make sure that you have liked our Facebook page, the link to which is in the video description.